Welcome to episode 6 of Nisemonogatari. Last time ended with Araragi needing to kiss his sister to take her affliction away from her, so we'll see how that gets resolved. What we focus on this time, where it goes. We're going to watch the episode and discuss it with the subtitles and the timer on screen if you want to follow along that way, or you can pull up the full episode on the side. But either way, let's get into it. In 3, 2, 1, play. Flower, here to start off. Here she is in bed. And now we have Tsukihi. Okay, so he said he wasn't able to absorb all of it, but her fever went down a little. Did they kiss then? And we didn't see it? I thought you learned your lesson. Oh, he didn't assault her. He learned. As a victim of rape himself now, at the hands of Kanbaru, he learned. He thought about it, but he went for the shoulder. And he kept it simple, but she's like, what the fuck? That was a boring greeting. What's going on? What happened? So I honestly, I think I said last time that I expect 20 minutes of this episode to be about him and Karin arguing about whether or not they should kiss. But apparently it happened off screen? That's surprising. Wow. And then what do you have? Just a flea? So she's actually upset that he no longer assaults her. And it's like, you're not even you anymore. Without that, then what the hell are you? I love the map, and now they're on some cliff. Man, you can't even disappear right. What is this crystal? They're at a save point. I love the environments. So yeah, that just happened off screen apparently, huh? And just, that's it? No big deal made of it at all? I thought we'd get like a flashback. There'd be some big comedy around it, but no. It's just that simple. They just did it and there you go. Huh. So it seems. Unless they didn't, if they didn't do it, it's just confusing wording. But the way they did word it makes it seem like they did it. Well, Hanekawa's been pointing out the similarities between them the whole time. Yeah, you don't know how much they've done, exactly. Like, all the people you've helped. What if they have a whole group of people just like that they've helped too? Well, it's a good question. It's probably different for a lot of different people. 20? Is that right? That's definitely not. That's an interesting way to put it. Like when you start working, it's an interesting perspective. But I think there's more to it as well. It's like she said, you can grow up without working too. Adults who spend their days watching anime or something. What's up with those guys, am I right? Adults who think of themselves as kids are the worst. Oh no. Alright, sure. Of course, there's a lot of discussion to be had there. As in, like, I like to have fun, I like to watch anime, but then I'll be like a responsible adult and like support myself and take care of my responsibilities, you know. There's different ways to look at it and as what you mean as being a kid, being an adult. Farewell, next time I'll be sure to assault you, since that's what you want. Oh dear. Well, shit. We had foreshadowing before. I don't believe you. I don't believe you're kidding. Okay, yeah. We had foreshadowing before that made it seem like something was eventually going to happen to Mayoi, and now they just straight up say it. So, okay, I don't know when that'll be. But yeah, like, if they didn't kiss, like, he might have meant, like, I wasn't able to take it, as in I wasn't able to convince her to kiss me, but the way he says it implies that they did. Maybe she'll say something when she wakes up. I don't know. But either way, we get a whole Hachikuji scene before the OP. So, while the OP is playing now, though, let me say that if you enjoy these videos, subscribe to the channel. Nisemonogatari comes out every Saturday with other videos every single day of the week. Also check out the description down below for links to Twitter and Discord if you want to hang out on there. And Patreon, where you can support the channel, get these videos early, vote in polls for what shows I'm going to watch, and all that stuff. Thank you so much. So we're in Karen B part 6 now. So this is the longest arc. Because what was Tsubasa Cat? Was that 5 episodes? I think so. Part 6. Senjogahara? Cutting something up? Interesting way to sharpen a pencil. Many pencils. This is very ominous setting. Whoa, that's a sharp-ass pencil. Who would they be embedded into? And it would be an accident, right? 100 pencils. Any more than 100, it's definitely deliberate. But 100 could be passed off as an accident. I don't even need the pencils. I've got this. Handcuffs are back. I don't know if I can trust that. Oh, really? She's personally willing to confront him herself. Oh, she gets a little defensive just of hearing that he talked to Hanekawa. Yeah, of course. She's genuinely scared of Hanekawa stealing her man. Kinda, yeah, she's kinda being bullied. Wow. Seriously? Maybe that's why we have the visual change in Hanekawa, kind of showing her dominance over Senjogahara. The haircut, that's a very classic sign of character growth, especially in anime. Taking off the glasses. I much prefer the glasses look. And the hair too, but... Ghostbuster. I'd buy it. Yeah, they're like, it's so silly that it must be serious. Like, it's so obviously fraudulent that it can't be fraudulent, right? Alright, same guy he was back then. Like a dead tree. Don't break the pencils, you need those. All 100. If she hadn't broken that. If it had been a little longer. Yeah, it's bad. Okay, so clearly he did absorb half of it. Okay. So he's not being affected by the part that he absorbed at all? That's what I thought, just because of his vampirism. How has it affected him? Even if it's just a little, what has happened? Yeah, gotta protect the sisters. Yeah, he wouldn't want that to happen. Yeah, she has a personal connection to him as well, so it's kind of like settling a demon from her past. Wow, she feels that strongly about it that eventually she feels like she may have actually sought him out to settle it, which is understandable. Like, if that's a big dark spot on your past, Sundaring, a big spot on your past, you might eventually want to seek some resolve that issue. I don't know about the other ones, though, but maybe he was just the worst of them. Yeah. Okay, that's fair. Like, hey, I did choose to rely on them. It's what it is. I'm not going to play total victim there. But she wants to seek out Kaiki. Something specific and something worse about him. Alright, there it is. Fair. Alright, understandable. Likely, from what we've heard so far. But still. The crab. For the way that he did it. It's hard to forgive somebody for something like that. Yeah, I don't know about that. That's just a little too much. Yeah, he just kind of spurred it along the natural course that it was going to. But he still did that. And he did it with this malice, and makes sense that no matter how much you try to logic any of it, that on a base level you can't forgive a person for that. It's for his sake, too, though. Yeah, but clearly he has knowledge. He knows what he's doing. Yeah, we talked about that before, didn't we? I would say so. I love all the shots with the pencils. A justiceman. That's right. All right. True evil. By committing a crime? I don't know fully what she intends to do. I'd still love you. I'd visit you all the time, yeah. She would dominate the prison. Those prisoners would be her bitches. Look at the fucking pencil tower. Wow. She was like floored by that. Yeah? Alright. Luckily I'm a woman, so I'll just come up with hundreds of other excuses for potentially murdering you. The things she says are just so absurd and unique. Like, when have you ever heard a line like that? If I were a man, I'd be so jealous of your manliness that I would murder you. Like, what? What do you got? To put that part of your past behind you. Yeah, Hanekawa cutting the hair. Okay. Yeah. Kneel down for mistress. Moving on from that last page of her life. Are you going to cut your hair? That makes sense. Of course you'd want to move forward. Well, I gotta know. You're gonna only tell him after the fact? Alright. I don't know if that's foreshadowing. Alright, we're going visual novels. We're gonna have different routes. Yeah, I don't know if it's foreshadowing for you to say that I'll tell you later. You're foreshadowing that she will tell him later, but I don't think that's, it's not generally what it means. Um... If you were unconscious, then you weren't up. But okay. I get that there's a distinction, though. You might not get any sleep tonight. Where the hell did she go? She was in a pretty rough state. We're black and white, because this is serious. So she got ready and went out on her own to deal with this. Yeah, she wants to settle it herself. So she's just gonna go search? If you go, you'll just join her, so don't bother, I'll go. Alright, I don't think it should be too hard to put yourself in the head of your sister. Shinobu? Hello! Yeah? Ha ha! Alright. Yeah, he's not gonna do that, but good to know. Alright. Look, I'm willing to help, but I'm not going to lower myself to offer the help. Command me. It's interesting, because one perspective you might think it would be shameful to be forced to do it. But I guess from her perspective, well, if she's forced, it's out of her control, and it's more shameful to offer the help. Interesting. So yeah, it's just commanding her for appearance's sake. I guess I have no choice. I don't want to help you, but I'm forced. I don't know when the caca thing started, but I mean, we heard it in, episode 4, but I don't know when, in between Bake and this, she decided to start doing that. But it's cute. So where'd she go? Oh, she went to the ED. I never would have thought to look there. So let's talk about this one. Is there probably nothing else after this? Just a preview. All right, episode 6 begins with Araragi having already taken away part of Karen's suffering. He couldn't take the whole thing, but he has eased her pain a bit, and he seems to be doing fine because of his vampiric healing. He says he's not, perfectly fine, but from what we can see, there doesn't seem to be any real negative side effects from it showing up yet. But I really thought that we would have some kind of scene, possibly a very lengthy one, just knowing how this show can be, of them debating whether or not they should kiss, her getting angry about this, possibly somebody or multiple somebodies walking in on this, and just this whole comedic routine that could be a quick little opening bit, could be the entire episode, and you never really know. And the last thing I would have guessed would be skipping it entirely. I was debating for a little while, it seems like he did it, but could we really have skipped it? I was really trying to think, maybe it didn't happen, maybe we'll get a flashback, but sure enough, we didn't see it at all, which is interesting. Just from a lot of things that we've seen in this series so far, it's definitely not shy to show fan servicey things, and to go out of its way to show these comedic routines, Araragi getting into awkward situations and stuff, but we actually didn't see this. They didn't use this opportunity to do that, which is interesting, because it is a serious thing. She's actually in a life or death scenario. He's trying to help her, trying to ease her pain and save her and take that on to himself. And while you could have made a goofy, crazy, funny thing out of it, whether you want to make it explicit and fan servicey or not, you could have done some things with it, but they decided not to, which is interesting because, we had the whole Shinobu bath scene, which was heavily featured nudity, but wasn't as sexual or sexualized as certain other things in the show, which was interesting to watch because that was more of like this feeling that I had that I didn't really fully realize until after the fact, which I talked about in that episode, only thinking back on it after the fact, like, oh yeah, that wasn't quite as awkward as some of the other fan service type scenes that have been in the series, even if those have featured fully clothed characters. This one featured full nudity and didn't really have that same kind of feeling. So it's kind of the same sort of feeling here, like they didn't want to turn something like that into a goofy fan service comedy thing, even though the cliffhanger for the last episode was kind of like, what? We're gonna have to kiss? Like, it was treated as a serious thing, done off screen as a private thing that we don't have to peek in on, and there you go. It's not treated as like, oh, they're siblings and they're kissing, whoa! It was played respectfully. The only thing is I would have liked to seen a little bit more of the conversation there, because I feel like there would have been some debate, because of course, them being so similar, Karin would have been like, no, I don't want you to take on my pain, and he'd be like, I don't want you to be feeling the pain, I want to take on the pain, and she's like, no, I want to take, but I guess she gave in and allowed him to help her. It would have been nice to hear a little more of her perspective, and maybe we will after we see her again, since we don't get to see her in this episode other than asleep. But yeah, it's an interesting way to handle it, to think about the thought process behind why it was handled that way. But we have a Hachikuji conversation going around the town with a bunch of different scenery, which I really liked. I love the visuals there. Great all around, as usual. I love the pencils and everything they did with those with Senjogahara, but yeah, further foreshadowing that something is going to happen with her, which was made pretty clear before, and now it's made explicit and shoved in our faces that that's going to happen. More conversations about how Araragi is similar to his sisters, which I liked her line about them having people that they have helped as well, because that's definitely a parallel to Koyomi himself. Like, he has his group of girls, his group of people that we have watched him save and that we've grown attached to because of it, and they could very well have a similar group of people, maybe not in the exact same way, not people who are as close, who hang around all the time, this harem of girls, but either way, they may have people that they have genuinely helped. And so while he's talking about them not knowing the right way to go about this stuff, like, that's interesting to think about. Other than that, it's mostly just funny, fun conversation about him not assaulting her. It seemed like he was going to, and I was like, wait, didn't you learn your lesson with Kanbaru? But then he did. He genuinely learned. That carried over. He just tapped her on the shoulder, and she was like, what the fuck? What are you doing? That's not even you. I'm done with you. And just insulted him for not doing it. So now, from now on, I don't know if he'll go back to it, but either way, that was entertaining. And then we have a lot of Senjogahara in this episode who wants to go after Kaiki herself, which is surprising with the way she has talked about him so far, but it makes sense, since she can't just stop Araragi entirely. She is willing to go confront him for Araragi and also for herself, as much as she may say that it's not for you, it's settling this issue from my past. It's definitely partially for Araragi's sake, but it all makes a lot of sense, everything that she's saying. I was talking earlier in the episode, before we even talked about Hanekawa cutting her hair, I was talking about that myself and saying how that's a pretty common trope, a pretty common symbolic thing, a character kind of growing, moving on by cutting their hair. Pretty easy symbolism to do, pretty easy way to show a change in the character, literally like severing off a part of themselves, something that's very easy to remove from a character or change, like their hairstyle. So yeah, Hanekawa kind of moving past the things that she has been through, although, you know, the most recent thing being the end of Bake and everything there, and kind of having Araragi taken from her by Senjogahara, although she's still holding that over Senjogahara and saying that she'll steal him away. I don't know how serious she is about any of that, but Senjogahara's taking it seriously. The way she kind of jumps at mention of Hanekawa, or that they were hanging out together, or saying that like she was polishing her shoes or kneeling before her and calling her mistress and all that, like she genuinely sees her as a threat, which is interesting. And I like it as a visual change, kind of showing, like I said, that sort of dominance that she has over Senjogahara, instead of like the schoolgirl look, like with the long braided hair and the glasses. It's kind of a more adult-ish kind of look. At least it sort of seems like it represents that a little bit. But yeah, just their whole conversation about closing that chapter of her life makes sense, and I really like everything that she's saying here. You've got just the funny, entertaining shit. Like I said, if I were a man, I'd be so jealous of your manliness that I would murder you. Which is hilarious. That's probably my favorite line, but just like, if there were 100 pencils stabbed into a third party, that would be an accident, right? Just fantastic. Nisi always seen just somehow comes up with these absurd, ridiculous, hilarious, really unique lines for Senjogahara. So much anime comedy is very repetitive, and you really hear the same types of jokes from show to show, but Monogatari, especially where Senjogahara is concerned, is where I can come to hear some original insults and some original, just weird shit. I love the weird shit that she says. But on the serious side, I really like what's going on in her mind too, because of course she would want to be able to move on past that part of her life and kind of close that book, that trauma from her past, and sort of going over it all and how she feels about him. Like, yeah, there were other con men as well, and I'm not just going to play the victim here. Like, I was betrayed. I put my trust in them, and I was betrayed. So be it. It sucks, but I'm not going to dwell on it and roll around and cry about it. Kaiki, though, that was a step too far, and I do have this hatred for him that I feel like I need to solve, because she blames him for leading directly to her parents' divorce. And it's just an interesting line of thought to be going through for her, because she acknowledges that, yeah, it's not entirely on him. They were probably headed there anyway. Like, she seems like certain that they would have gotten divorced at some point anyway, but does that make it okay that he came in here and caused it to happen anyway, caused it to happen faster, or when it did, specifically with the intentions that he had, which she says are malice. However, that doesn't seem to line up perfectly with what we've seen of him so far. Maybe we'll see more about how he was then in a flashback. Either she's wrong about his intentions, or he actually was doing it for some other reason that we'll learn about later, because there's got to be more depth to him than just wanting money. But we'll see. From what we've seen so far, he just cares about money. He wasn't doing it out of spite towards them or anything, from what we've seen of him. But either way, with that logic that she's operating under, she can't forgive him, which is understandable. Like, as much as you might want to say, like, yeah, it would have happened anyway, does that make it okay? As much as you might try to rationally think about all that, like, you're going to have that part of you that can't forgive him. And really, like Araragi says, during that time where she was dealing with her crab issues, she couldn't even feel those strong emotions. She couldn't have felt hatred for him during that time. So it's more so really just about putting that behind her, more so than hating him. So maybe her saying that he did it out of malice, he could have, because of something we don't know yet. It could be a misunderstanding on her part of his intentions, or that might just be kind of her excuse to sort of hate him, as her excuse to go close that chapter of her life. Like she says, she would have sought him out eventually, because she wants to be able to put that behind her. So either way, I definitely want to see more. Now that she says she's going to get directly involved, see more of Kaiki individually and the two of them interact and see where all that goes. It's interesting to have all this build up. Most arcs in Bake were a lot shorter. Deal with this girl's problem, deal with it real quick. All right, monkey's paw, we're good, done. But this Kaiki guy, we got a lot of build up, and I don't know how significant he'll be in the rest of the series, but it's interesting so far. I'm liking him and how he's affecting so many other characters and the conversations we're having, and Karen is gone. She's gone to take care of things herself. We get some Shinobu, which was fun. I like that whole scene too. Again, with Monogatari being very good at having like a lot of sort of roundabout dialogue, where in a lot of shows would feel like a waste of time because it's just not well written enough, it's not funny enough. So when you have her, where basically the scene boils down to, can you help me? Yeah, sure. But we have to spend all this time of her being like, well, you know, describing how their relationship is, and if you give me a command, then I'll have to do it, and that's another interesting perspective that I talked about in the reaction, where I could kind of see it going either way. You might feel that it is shameful to have to obey his commands because you're being forced to do something against your will, but she's seeing it as shameful to humble herself down and offer help. But if she's ordered, well, then there's nothing she can do, so there's no shame in that. So just go ahead and order me, just for appearance's sake. Oh, I guess I have to help you. And so you get that whole thing that in many shows would be annoying, but here it's funny because the characters are likable and it's really well written. So yeah, I don't know where she is, where Karen is right now, what kind of state she's in. She's doing better, but she's still sick. She's still affected by this. If they have any kind of leads where they could possibly find Kaiki, or if they're going to have to wait, he's probably going to have to get her to cool down and then regroup later after talking to Senjogahara again. So we'll see where that goes. But for now, she seems to be at least out there trying. Maybe she's out here doing something else. Maybe she's being a little more level-headed than we might think. But for now, it seems like she's trying to go after him. So I don't know what they'll do when they run into her. But yes, one funny thing that I wanted to mention that has nothing to do with this episode, but when I uploaded episode 5, it immediately received limited monetization, which I don't think has ever happened before. I've had some videos get demonetized, but I think that was just for copyright issues because a show is being mentioned. It mostly was happening with Demon Slayer, which was a show that was airing at the time and was a big popular show, so it makes sense that those would be kind of automatically hit just for mentioning, you know, the name of the show or anything like that, that those would automatically be demonetized. I don't think it was limited monetization. I think it was straight up demonetization. It all worked out for all those videos, though. Anytime I repealed them, they immediately got monetized, so it worked out fine. As soon as anybody checked them and saw, yeah, there's no actual copyright infringement, you're fine. But with episode 5 of Nisei, I got limited monetization, and I assume that's because of the thumbnail, because the thumbnail shows Karen and she's bent over like this and her shirt's kind of hanging down, so you see a little, not really cleavage, but you see like collarbone, you see like this whole area. So I'm assuming it was purely because of the thumbnail and because there is a cartoon child and her cleavage-ish area in it. So I just thought that was kind of funny. But yeah, either way, Senjogahara was great fun. It's always nice to see her. A lot of the time, it's really at its best when she's around. There's so many good scenes with other characters too. Like there's other great arcs. I love Kanbaru, so you know, I say that, but then I think about all the other characters and I'm like, oh yeah, I like them too. I love the scenes with Kanbaru. Those are so much fun. Tsubasa Cat arc was great. Kizu was great, even though Senjogahara wasn't there at all. But there's just something a little bit special about Senjogahara's scenes, about the way that she talks, about the kind of dialogue that you get. Like, Monogatari dialogue is really good, but it's really at its peak with her, for me at least, and when she interacts with Araragi, so it's always great to see her. I would love to see an arc where she goes to prison. He says he'd visit her every day, but I would love to see Senjogahara taking dominance in a prison environment. Just making all the other women there her bitches and just, yeah, see what the hell that would be like. But yeah, just them gonna be working together. A great line from him as well. Like, I don't even know why I'm dating you sometimes, but then I think that I love you so much and it doesn't even matter. And this seemed to really floor her. And when she says, we might not be getting any sleep tonight, or you might not be. I'm not going to jump to conclusions about what that means, because it's Senjogahara, so it could mean anything. You never know what kind of weird shit it's going to mean. But either way, interesting line to have in there. And whatever her condition is for him coming along with her, I guess we'll find out eventually. But yeah, So we are over halfway through Nisei, because I think it's only 11 episodes. It's definitely, so far, my least favorite of all of Monogatari that I've watched, although I still do have quite a bit of time to go. I still am enjoying it. It's just, Bake had the introduction to all of these characters. We got through all of their arcs. They all had their own little arcs, Nadeko's being kind of, less interesting than the others, but it was also the shortest, and Kizu was just so beautiful and really gave so much context to things that we had already seen. This one is taking its time. This arc alone, Karin B, is already longer than any of the arcs in Bake, and it seems to still be going. And so I guess whatever we have with Tsukihi will just have to be a bit shorter. I don't know what that'll be like after the fact. But I guess that'll be it for Nisei. There'll be like a long Karin arc and then a shorter Tsukihi arc, and that'll be done from what it seems like so far. But it's just focusing on this one story. I like the build-up with Kaiki, because I do enjoy him so far, and I hope that he'll probably be a bigger presence in the series going forward, and this will be really good setup for him. And it's probably good setup for a lot that I just don't know about yet, because I haven't seen into the future. We're foreshadowing a lot with Hachikuji, we're developing a lot of these relationships, Senjogahara, Hanekawa, getting to know his sisters more. There's a lot that's being introduced and developed and established and everything, but it is taking a decent amount of time building up this one storyline. It's kind of slow-paced, for sure. There are a lot of scenes of just conversations with the girls that we know and love. Some repetition, like I've talked about even in this episode. We talk about how he's similar to his sisters again. We talk about something else that I mentioned earlier, I don't remember right now, but there was also talking about Kaiki being a con man, and him saying that, like, oh, well, I thought you said he was a con man, and then her saying, like, yeah, but he's also the real deal. Like, we kind of established that already. We may talk about that again. It was great seeing the card, though, Ghostbuster. It's like, why would you fall for that? But I agree, like, there are some things where you're like, if somebody was trying to fuck with me, like, would they make it that obvious? That's gotta be real, right? And you never know. Is it just a troll? Are they just stupid? Is this real? It's gotten to the point where you can't fucking tell anymore, especially on the internet when you're reading certain shit on Twitter. But either way, despite the slow pace, it's still interesting. It's still a lot of fun. It's very entertaining, and I loved all the stuff with Senjogahara in this episode. Rest of it was fun too, but she was definitely the highlight, so can't wait for more. So let me know your thoughts on this episode. Everything with Senjogahara, Shinobu, Hachikuji, Hanekawa, skipping the Karin kiss scene, no Kanbaru for a little while, no Nadeko. We'll get to them eventually. We'll see what happens, but yeah, let me know your thoughts and we can talk about it some more down in the comments. If you enjoyed the video, subscribe to the channel. If you'd like to see more, check out the Patreon and all that stuff, linked down below. Thank you so much, and I'll see you next time.